This family story just heartbreaking.
It really is. In fact, Marvin Lancaster III's parents told me that they are truly, truly devastated by what happened at Club Rain, which is just up the street from here. And that pain and that hurt is compounded by the fact that no one has been arrested in this case. They told me that they were actually on vacation in Hawaii when they got the call about what happened, and it was a very, very long, painful 24 hours to get back home.
But, I mean, my heart is broken.
Nina and Marvin Lancaster are barely keeping it together.
And for this to happen, the tragic event, how he died, you know, my baby shouldn't have been taken away from me so brutally. It was carelessness. This didn't have to happen.
Their only son, Marvin III, who friends call Little Marvin, died in a shooting at Club Rain nearly 2 weeks ago. In an ironic and very sad twist, he was periscoping a live feed of his own death. His parents were on vacation in Hawaii when this happened and talked to him just an hour before he died.
I dropped to my knees. I was paralyzed. There was nothing I can do. We were so far away. We couldn't get home for over 24 hours.
Through their grief, Nina and Marvin have to deal with yet another sad reality. No one has been arrested in their son's death.
Someone knows something. Even someone is feeding him, whoever done it. He's living somewhere. He's being sheltered. I mean, just put the shoe on the other foot.
Now I have a reason to be out here.
To help cope, the Lancasters have turned this back corner of their yard into a garden. All of the plants here, just a portion of the flowers given to them at their son's funeral this past Saturday.
We didn't want them to die, so we wanted to keep his memory alive.
And as they deal with the untimely death, knowing that their son won't just come lay across the bed and talk to them anymore as he usually did, they continue to beg the person who did it, just come forward.
How could you live with yourself?
And I checked with TPD late this afternoon, and they have no new updates in this case, no updates in the search for the shooter. Now, there was a second person who died in this shooting. He died a few days afterwards. His name is Christopher Houston. He's 20 years old, and we understand that his funeral is this weekend. Stacey?
All right, Rod Carter live in Tampa tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, we're actually inside, Stacey, and I'll show you what the crowd looks like. You can see there are already a bunch of people here. Just on the other side of those folks, there's a Donald Trump impersonator, but I want to show you something that'll remind you this is definitely on a college campus. Take a look right up there. Yep, it feels like you're kind of at a basketball game, right? Well, I caught up with a couple of other students here at USF who are in the audience to tell us about why they wanted to be here. Thousands of feet of cable, dozens of television cameras, scores of volunteers and law enforcement. The stage is set for Donald Trump. Outside the USF Sundome, some stand under umbrellas to shield from the sun. People lined up early for their chance to see and hear Donald Trump.
I'm a junior.
You're a junior. Two students we caught up with today, junior Christine Bocchino and sophomore Marissa Trant. One is a political science major and not a Trump supporter. The other, a mass communications major who is pro-Trump. But they share a common thread. Both are interested in how a non-political politician changed the course of this race.
I think Donald Trump is very interesting. He's definitely the most fascinating candidate that's actually in the race today because he's just so different, and he's not a politician, which is what people actually like.
I've been following the election, and I've never seen a presidential candidate speak publicly before, and I thought it would be a really awesome experience.
These two young ladies also differ in their own voting backgrounds. For one, this is her first time taking part in a presidential election. The other, her second.
I think all the candidates are really interesting. Trump is obviously one of the more energetic and enthusiastic candidates of all of them.
Either way, they're witnessing politics like never before.
The thing that I want to see is I want to see what he's telling people that makes them respond to him because he's not that typical candidate who people would nominate for the Republican ticket.
And when I tell you that people are here for a various sundry of reasons, I really mean it. A woman stopped me at 10:30 this morning right out front and said that she is intent on getting to that stage and talking to Donald Trump because she intends to ask him for money for his for her nonprofit organization. I kind of chuckled and said, good luck. She said, all I can do is ask. and, you know, he can give it if he wants to, Keith.
Well,
So
you never
people are here
know.
for a number of reasons.
I found it curious, Rod. I had a chance to cover Donald Trump in Iowa, went to the rallies, and when you talk to people there, many of them say they're just there because of the star power, for the curiosity, for the fascination, for just the bizarreness of being at a Trump rally. I know he has a lot of supporters, but it really is a mixed bag when you see all of those people. They're not all necessarily going to be pulling a lever for Donald Trump.
You know what, and I think that's what probably has all of the pundits, all the political watchers a little confused. They don't know what the draw is, but I think it's just that. So many different reasons. People are here because, you know, they like that Donald Trump doesn't care what he says. He says how he feels, and he puts it out there no matter what. Other people here full on support him, and they're going to vote for him. Some people here out of just curiosity, to be honest with you. So you're right. It kind of is a mixed bag. But, again, guys with the shirts off and the trumpet, that just says we're on a college campus all day long.
They were right on cue. Right on cue with you, Rod. Thank you.
Rod Carter live at the Trump rally. Thank you very much. And we do.
Hey, Jen, this is a huge deal. We could soon see a lot more planes on tarmacs heading out to Cuba. It essentially could mean 5 times more flights to Havana alone. Hilda Herbs is from Orlando. She drove to Tampa to pick up her husband from the airport. He's coming home from Cuba.
He's been there 2 weeks.
Hilda is excited to hear of this new deal between the Cuban and U.S. governments to open up commercial air travel.
I think it's way better, but I just think that I would like it closer to home, opening up in more airports, so that way it could come to us and we don't have to drive so far to take them and pick them up.
But not everyone here thinks this is actually going to happen.
I have to see it first.
Ericé Fernandez is waiting for her mother to visit from Cuba. First time she's seen her in 5 years. She's hesitant about this new deal.
I don't know. Cuba, the government has like a lot of like issues. I'm not sure if they're going to accept this. I don't know. Let's see what's happening.
Under the agreement, airlines can operate up to 110 daily flights to that country. Right now, from TIA, there are only 7 weekly flights to Cuba, 5 to Havana.
That we think that we're well positioned to be able to serve commercial flights is that our charter flights have done really well.
Earning the airport about $1 million per year, but for people like Hilda and Ericé, this is what it's really all about. More chances to see family than ever before. And exactly how many flights we're talking about coming to TIA or leaving from TIA, right now we really do not know. That's all still up in the air. But I can tell you this, I couldn't even find anyone really to speculate on that, but I will say that, you know, Tampa has a large Cuban-American population, so it stands to reason that we'll probably have a large percentage of the pie. Of course, we'll keep you posted on that. And by the way, Jen, all of the airlines who'd like to fly to Cuba and have service to Cuba have until March 2nd to actually make an application with the Department of Transportation.
Right now on News Channel 8 at 11.
Tonight, the country is mourning the death of Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia as lawmakers now draw battle lines over his replacement. Plus, a Bay Area congresswoman arrives in Cuba to begin the push of lifting the U.S.-Cuban trade embargo. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rod Carter. Thanks so much for joining us this Saturday night. Today, Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia was found dead on a luxury resort in Texas. Now, he died of natural causes. Tonight, the flag outside the U.S. Supreme Court is flying at half-staff in honor of Justice Scalia, considered one of the most conservative and provocative members of the court. Justice Scalia was appointed to the court 30 years ago in 1986 by President Ronald Reagan. And tonight, just hours after his death, lawmakers are now in a heated debate over who should appoint his replacement. Brian Moore has a story now from Washington.
Outside the U.S. Supreme Court, a flag at half-staff, flowers and candles marking the passing of Justice Antonin Scalia. President Obama paid his respects from California.
Tonight, we honor his extraordinary service to our nation and remember one of the towering legal figures of our time.
Justice Scalia was 79, the longest-serving justice on the current court, but still, his death at a Texas ranch came without warning. And it came in the middle of a landmark court calendar with nothing less than the boundaries of presidential power under review. His passing sets the stage for a political battle royale over his successor and the Supreme Court's balance of power. On a polarized bench, he was as well known for his sense of humor as his fiery dissents, the cornerstone of a conservative wing that influenced the law of the land on issues ranging from affirmative action and abortion to gun ownership and free speech, not to mention Obamacare. but he was a firm proponent of the letter of the law, not the intent.
I, Antonin Scalia, do solemnly swear.
The nation's first Italian-American justice was appointed in 1986 by President Ronald Reagan. Scalia was known as an unapologetic but fair conservative.
I am not going onto the court with a list of things that I want to do. My only agenda is to be a good judge.
And he was confirmed unanimously, 98-0 by the Senate, an unlikely scenario for his successor. President Obama says he will choose a nominee, but leaders of the Republican-controlled Senate have already made it clear they do not want to move forward until a new president is seated next year. Brian Moore, NBC News, Washington.
And now to 8 on your side, special coverage from Cuba as the U.S. considers lifting the Cuban embargo. Congresswoman Kathy Castor and a group of U.S. representatives left Tampa International Airport today for Havana. 8 on your side, Jeff Patterson, the only reporter there to cover that trip. And tonight, Jeff talked with the Congresswoman just after she arrived about what she and the other representatives are hoping to accomplish while there.
In just 1 year since I was in Havana, I'm seeing a lot of construction underway, electric lines being laid here, a hotel under construction behind me. There are tourists everywhere in Old Havana, and this is exactly what the U.S. congressional delegation has come here to see and to find out how it's all impacting the average Cuban.
I think you're right, Jeff. There is a lot happening here. Thousands and thousands of American tourists are here, in addition to Europeans and many others, and that's changing the face of Old Havana. I wonder what's happening further outside the city.
Congresswoman Kathy Castor is leading this group of U.S. representatives to see what life is like in Cuba today. They'll be seeing what a growing number of Americans are now experiencing as they can now travel to Cuba for the first time in decades.
I'd like to talk to the entrepreneurs and small business owners about their hopes.
Castor will be talking to small business owners like Hernan Garcia Gonzalez, who we met today in his Paladar, or private restaurant. Tell me about your business.
My business is a new business. Only 3 months I opened this business.
He has 10 employees working here, something he wouldn't have dreamed of until recently.
I always work to the government, you know, and now I have more work. It's more difficult, you know.
More work, also more opportunity. While they're here, Kathy Castor and the U.S. congressional delegation are even going to talk to some people about these beautiful cars to find out how they keep them on the road and to find out how they're profiting from American tourists coming to Cuba. In Havana, I'm Jeff Patterson, News Channel 8.
8 on your side is the only television station bringing you these reports from Cuba on this trip. Jeff Patterson will continue to bring us stories from Havana all week long. Tonight, all of US 19 is back open after a very large brush fire in northern Hernando County. Now, dozens of firefighters there worked for hours to contain this fire at the Weeki Wachee area. That fire did jump several roads. A couple of homeowners there voluntarily evacuated. However, no homes or businesses were actually ever in danger.
Just woods. Yeah, there is a house down here at the end of the road, so I contacted them to try and get hold of them, and they were on their way up here. Somebody else had gone over there and trying to alert them, get them out of the house, thank God. So everybody's okay.
There are no reports of any injuries, and again, US 19 is back open in both directions. Thousands of people descended on Ybor City in a quest for beads. The annual Crew of Santiago Night Parade was a success with no major incidents to report. News Channel 8's Chip Osowski joining us live from the parade route. Chip, police were out there in full force, but the bigger question is, where are my beads? Are those mine or yours?
I'll get to that in a moment, but first, yes, police were out in force, and they are still out in force at this hour as people are making their way out of Ybor City. There were no major issues at last year's parade, but there have been in previous years. Police were determined this would be an enjoyable and a safe event. There were the floats. There were the bands. And there were the cops. Lots of cops. A visible presence to ensure a safe night parade. Tampa police working with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office to put law enforcement officers all over the place.
We'll have a mixture out here. You'll see officers on horse, you'll see officers on bike, you'll see officers in uniform, you'll see officers just in plain clothes. So we'll definitely have a good mixture of law enforcement officers who are trained to work events such as this.
Every year, thousands attend the night parade. Natalie Johns, sporting her pirate glasses, appreciates the added security.
Actually, it makes me feel awesome because I live within 2 blocks from here. I was able to get off work, come right home, got in around the traffic quite nicely all the way from Clearwater, and I feel super safe knowing that this is here with all the security.
Other parade goers aren't convinced it really does make a difference.
Well, I grew up here. I've been actually coming to this since probably I was 5 or 6 years old. No, I don't notice the difference. This has always seemed pretty safe to me.
And I did speak with a TPD spokeswoman after the parade ended. She told me officers did not make one single arrest during this year's night parade. Call 2016 Night Parade a success. Now, Rod, on the bead front, as you can see, I did get my hands on a few beads.
Right.
I'll get those to you tomorrow. I kind of want to go through them before I give some of them up.
I know what you want to do. You want to pick out the best beads to keep yourself. All right, I can respect that. You're the one who had to earn them, Chip.
Oh, come on. Come on.
You worked hard for the bees, brother. I understand. Chip Osowski, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it.
I didn't do anything illegal.
See, I wasn't going to say anything about that at all, but okay, I understand. Thanks, Chip. We appreciate it. All right, another headlines of the day. Hillsborough County deputies have identified 2 people of interest in connection with a homicide this morning near USF. They would like to talk to 24-year-old Efren Rosato and 20-year-old Jeffra Sereno after a man's body was found at that Park Aberdeen apartment that's on Sycamore Court. If you know their whereabouts, know where these 2 men are, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office will certainly like to hear from you. 2 new cases of the Zika virus in Florida this week. Coming up, what Tampa City leaders are doing to eliminate mosquitoes. Also ahead, a bitter battle in South Carolina as Republicans spar at the last debate before the first Southern primary. It got pretty heated indeed.
Well, speaking of heated, not heated in parts of the country. In fact, the Northeast is seeing some of the coldest temperatures they've seen all season. I'll let you know if any of that cool air is heading our direction coming up in just a bit.
This week, 2 new cases of the Zika virus were reported in Florida, bringing the statewide total up to 20. 3 of those 20 cases are right here in the Bay Area. Today, Tampa City leaders took steps to eliminate mosquitoes by disposing of old tires. The tires are a perfect breeding ground for mosquitoes because they can collect standing water. Now, Tampa residents can drop off old tires from now until next Saturday. Residents can take up to 8 tires to the McKay Bay Waste to Energy facility. Now, you will need to bring a utility bill and a matching ID with you. Tonight, a follow-up to a story that we first told you about last week. Some University of Tampa students who collected bottles of water for the people of Flint, Michigan, delivered that water today. The group delivered nearly 30,000 bottles. They gave some to people in neighborhoods. They went door to door to hand that water out to them. And some of the bottles of water they collected went to a church. One member of the group is from Flint and wanted to do his best to help. Phi Beta Sigma fraternity members at UT also pitched in to help. Just hours after Justice Antonin Scalia's death, the debate now begins over who should appoint his replacement. Coming up, the Republican candidates for president weigh in during tonight's very heated GOP debate.
Those stories plus your Storm Teammate forecast and sports with Dan Lucas coming up on News Channel 8, the station that's always on your side.
The Republican candidates for president squared off in a rather heated debate tonight in South Carolina. It is 1 week before that state's primary. However, the death of Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia was a topic of discussion. It's not only putting new focus on the future of the court, but on the campaign as well. The candidates praised the court's longtime conservative justice.
He will go down as one of the great justices in the history of this republic.
The Senate needs to stand strong and say, we're not going to give up the U.S. Supreme Court for a generation by allowing Barack Obama to make one more liberal appointee.
Ask your national security experts.
The South Carolina primary, by the way, is again next Saturday, February 20th. Meanwhile, this weekend in St. Petersburg, supporters for Senator Bernie Sanders are holding a music event, a festival, to encourage people to register to vote before the primary deadline next week. Supporters are also encouraging voters to change their party affiliation. Florida does have a closed primary, which
which means voters must be registered as either Democrat or Republican. That festival continues tomorrow at Kimatic Studios in St. Petersburg. Again, Florida's primary takes place March 15th. The deadline to register to vote or change your party affiliation is Tuesday, February 16th. That's this Tuesday. We put everything you need to know about the primary on WFLA.com. Today, thousands of Catholic faithful greeted Pope Francis in Mexico City, waving to the pontiff as he passed in the Pope Mobile. Now, the Pope celebrated Mass at the Basilica of the Virgin of Guadalupe. That is considered by Catholics to be the most important shrine to the Virgin Mary in the world. 3 people are dead, dozens more injured, and an interstate remains closed right now after a 50-vehicle pileup in central Pennsylvania. That crash happened this morning about 75 miles northwest of Philadelphia. Police say more than 50 vehicles were involved in this one, leaving tractor trailers, box trucks, and cars tangled across 3 lanes of traffic. It was awful. At least 40 people are injured. I just want you to say that one more time before we go. The day of love. Have a good night. Saturday Night Live is next. We'll see you later.